I cannot talk about your success without talking about your parents.
You know, I feel like all the hard work that I've done. It's not an easy life, I think. We definitely go through our hardship. Sometimes your career can become your whole life, and the work-life balance becomes.
One hard court. That's it. That's all there was. Not one hard court per neighborhood. One hard court period, at a country club in Quezon City called Valle Verde. Every other court there was made of shell, a clay-like surface you'll only find in the Philippines. And shell courts don't prepare you for the rest of the world. So a grandfather named Roberto Maniego started showing up hours before school even let out, just to hold that one court for his granddaughter. First come, first served. He came first, every single day. That granddaughter is Alexandra Eala. And this is not a rivalry story. This is not even really an underdog story, not in the way you're used to hearing it. This is the story of a country with 115 million people and, until recently, not one true tennis star, and how one girl, one grandfather, and one hard court quietly changed that. Let's start with the number that tells you how far this has actually gone. In March of 2025, Alex Eala was ranked number 140 in the world. She wasn't even supposed to be in the main draw of the Miami Open. She got in on a wild card. Wild cards are supposed to be a courtesy. A nice gesture. They are not supposed to end in the semifinals of a WTA 1000 tournament. Hers did. Exhibit A, she beat Madison Keys, the reigning Australian Open champion. Exhibit B, she beat Yelena Ostapenko, another Grand Slam winner. Exhibit C, and this is the one worth sitting with, she beat Iga Swiatek, a 5-time major champion, in straight sets. She fell just short in the semifinal against Jessica Pegula, but by then it didn't matter. Everyone in tennis already knew her name. Read that last one twice. Here's where the story gets a layer most people miss. 2 years before that match, in 2023, Eala graduated from the Rafa Nadal Academy in Manacor, Spain. Her graduation speaker, the player invited to stand up and speak at her ceremony, was Iga Swiatek. That's not a coincidence the internet made up. That's documented. So when Eala beat her in the quarterfinals of Miami, it wasn't a rivalry. It was a student answering back to her own graduation speech. Neither of them could have guessed, standing at that graduation 2 years earlier, that they'd be on opposite sides of a Grand Slam level draw so soon. Let that sink in for a second. That week in Miami, her ranking jumped from number 140 to number 72. One tournament. 70 places. She became the first Filipina to beat a WTA top 10 player since the WTA rankings began in 1975. 50 years of Philippine tennis history, and it took one wild card entry to rewrite it. The results that I've been getting have been cooking for years, she said afterward. Not overnight. Cooking. 4 years. Say that back to yourself, because it's the thesis of this whole story. Years of a grandfather's early mornings on one hard court, years of a life most people never saw, finally landing on the scoreboard all at once. Now here's what most people missed, because it happened quietly, without the fireworks of Miami. Eala didn't get here overnight, and she didn't get here alone. Go back to age 4. That's when she picked up a racket for the first time, taught by her grandfather. Go back to Valle Verde Country Club, that one hard court, hours of waiting just to practice on a surface that would actually exist outside the Philippines. Her grandfather wasn't just being strict. He was thinking ahead. There are no shell courts in Paris, or Melbourne, or London. If Alex was ever going to compete abroad, she needed hard courts in her legs long before she needed them on a scoreboard. That is not discipline for its own sake. That is a plan. And it's worth knowing where that plan came from. Her mother, Rosemary, known to most as Riza, was a competitive swimmer herself, a bronze medalist at the 1985 Southeast Asian Games. Her father, Michael, is a business executive. Neither of them came from tennis. It was her grandfather who saw something in a 4-year-old and decided, quietly, that this was worth building around. He's a very tough guy, Eala has said of him. He was one of those tough love coaches, but I think that's a big part of my mental strength and how I carry myself on court now. Notice the order there. Discipline first. Belief second. Results years later. At 13 years old, Eala left the Philippines for Mallorca, Spain, to train full-time at the Rafa Nadal Academy under coach Joan Bosch. Leaving home at 13 is not a small sacrifice, and the raw truth is that the Philippines had no real pathway for a professional tennis player at that time. If she wanted this life, she had to go build it somewhere else. Players from the Philippines would die for that opportunity, she said of training in proximity to Rafael Nadal himself. You just have to make the most out of it. Bosch, her coach, put it simply, it's super nice to coach her. She has something special. Fast forward to 2022. 17 years old. The US Open Junior Championships. Eala is the number 10 seed, which meant she wasn't expected to win it. She was expected to be a nice story for a round or two. Instead, she went through the draw in straight sets, beating 3 higher-seeded players along the way, and did not drop a single set in the entire tournament. In the final, she beat the number 2 seed, Lucy Havlikova, 6-2, 6-4, in just 68 minutes. She became the first Filipina to win a junior Grand Slam singles title. Ever. Fans in the stands held up the Philippine flag against the walls. She signed their tennis balls afterward, one by one. And here is the line that matters most in this whole story, the one worth remembering, because we're coming back to it. After that win in her press conference, Eala said, "It's not just my win, it's all of our wins." Say that back to yourself. It's not just my win, it's all of our wins. Let that sink in for a second, because for a country of 115 million people that had never produced a Grand Slam junior champion before, that sentence wasn't just politeness. It was the whole point. So let's put the board in order, because the timeline actually tells the story better than any single match does. Age 4, first racket, taught by her grandfather. Childhood, 1 hard court, first come first served, a grandfather arriving hours early. 2018, leaves home for Spain at 13. 2020 and 2021, junior doubles Grand Slam titles at the Australian Open and French Open. Quiet wins that barely made headlines outside a small circle, but wins all the same. 2022, the US Open Junior Singles title, the one that made history. 2023, graduates the Rafa Nadal Academy, with IGA Swiatek delivering the speech. 2025, the wild card run through Miami that beats Swiatek herself. Notice the order. The setup came years before anyone outside the Philippines was paying attention. After Miami, the story didn't slow down, it kept building. In June of 2025, Eala reached her first WTA Tour final, at the Eastbourne International in England. She didn't win it, but simply being there was another first for her country, the first Filipina in history to reach a WTA Tour level final. Weeks later, she arrived at Wimbledon with a career-high ranking of number 56, the highest-ranked Filipino player in WTA history at that point, and became the first Filipino to compete in the Wimbledon main draw in the Open era, and the first to ever step onto center court. Her first-round opponent was the reigning Wimbledon champion, Barbara Krejcikova. Eala lost the match. But she took a full set off the defending champion, and she made her hit her best tennis just to survive it. Afterward, Krejcikova didn't dismiss her. She validated her, unprompted, in her own post-match press conference. She said Eala was smashing the ball and cleaning the lines, calling her part of the next generation of the sport, adding that she's gonna be really good in a couple of years. That's not a consolation quote. That's a champion, unprompted, telling the world to pay attention. Read that last sentence again, because it matters. The champion said it. Not the commentators. Not the fans. The champion. Here's the question worth arguing about in the comments. How does a country with no real tennis infrastructure produce a player good enough to make a Wimbledon champion say that out loud? The winning didn't stop there either. She closed out 2025 by winning the women's singles title at the Southeast Asian Games in Bangkok, the first time the Philippines had won that event since 1999. 26 years between champions, and she was the one who finally closed the gap. Then, in January of 2026, she won a doubles title at the ASB Classic in Auckland, partnering to a win against veteran Venus Williams. Not a rookie facing a fading name for a photo opportunity, but a genuine win on a real scoreboard, against one of the most decorated players the sport has ever seen. In March of 2026, her singles ranking climbed to a new career high of number 29, the highest any Filipino player has ever reached, in either the men's or women's game. Now, tennis is not a straight line for anyone, and it wasn't for her either. By April of 2026, her ranking had eased back to number 44. That's part of the sport. Rankings move. What doesn't move is what got her here in the first place. Because through all of it, the wild card runs, the Grand Slam upsets, the finals, the rankings climbing and dipping, the foundation has stayed the same. Her parents, Mike and Riza. Her brother Miko, who played collegiate tennis at Penn State. Her grandfather, who started it all with one hard court and one simple plan. As Eala herself put it, the further along I go, the more I realize how important it is to surround yourself with good people. Off the court, she's still just a 20-year-old from Quezon City. She misses adobo when she travels, and simple things like a video call with her family between matches. She rewatches Friends and Modern Family to unwind, and she's admitted she slid into the DMs of Coco Gauff before the two paired up for doubles in Rome. She loves ice cream and milk tea the way any 20-year-old would. And she doesn't hide the fact that she cares about how she looks doing all of this. I love dressing up. I love looking good on court, feeling myself, she said, and I am so happy for tennis that we're breaking into another industry. Even her own father has noticed it. Watching her photographed in a Nike shirt designed by a Manila-based artist, inspired by her, he simply said, "You know she likes what she's wearing. She's smiling." That's worth pausing on, because it's easy to only see the scoreboard and miss the person behind it. The discipline that got her here didn't come at the cost of who she is. It came alongside it. She's become a Nike and Globe ambassador, using the platform not for herself, but in her own words, to try to inspire other younger people back home. "It's so nice to see that I'm able to pave the way, and I'm able to expose the Philippines to this international stage," she said. "The only thing I can give back to my country is to inspire." And that brings us back to the line. "It's not just my win, it's all of our wins." She said it at 17, after a junior title in New York. She's still living it now, at 20, as the highest-ranked player her country has ever produced. She has said her long-term goal plainly, to one day be number one in the world. She's also said, just as plainly, that it's a long way away. She's not predicting it. She's not rushing it. She's just doing what her grandfather taught her to do on that one hard court all those years ago. Show up, put in the work, and let the ranking take care of itself. Here's the recap, because this is a lot to hold on to at once. First Filipina to win a junior Grand Slam singles title. First to reach a WTA Tour level final. First to play a Wimbledon main draw match, and the first to do it on center court. First to beat a top 10 opponent in 50 years of WTA history, and then she did it twice in the same week, against Keys and then Swiatek back-to-back. First Southeast Asian Games women's singles champion for her country in 26 years. That is not a list of small footnotes. That is a person building an entire sports history almost single-handedly, one first at a time. Right now, she's a 20-year-old from a country of 115 million, standing in rooms, center court at Wimbledon, the semifinals of Miami, that no Filipino tennis player has ever stood in before. What she does in the next one is still unwritten. We're not going to tell you what happens next. Nobody knows yet, and honestly, that's the part worth showing up for. If you've been in her corner since that one hard court in Quezon City, drop a comment and tell us where you first heard her name. And if this is your first time hearing this whole story, subscribe, because a player who says it's not just my win, it's all of our wins is just getting started.